Yeah, I hear you.
Is there a packet that has those things in it for Brian?
Brian, right here's the packet for you. I have 5:30, Bill. You good? Okay. Call this meeting to order. Welcome to the March 18th, 2026 regular board meeting. Roll call. Sarah Kaufman.
Here.
Penny Lazzaro.
Here.
Sue Webster.
Here.
And Matt Kroger is absent. Approval of the January 21st, 2026 minutes. I'll motion to approve those January 21st minutes.
Second.
Sarah seconds, all in favor?
I was absent.
I
Abstain.
remember that one.
Yeah.
Penny abstained. And then today's agenda, I believe we have an addition.
Yes, just a correction, please, under the presentation from Bill Trevaskis, it should say Bill Trevaskis and Heather White, so please make a note of that. And that's for Widows Island Fund trip.
And then were we gonna move up the capital improvement plan?
Thank you very much.
Presentation as
Yes.
well?
If we could move that up, and,
You could
yes,
do that
do you want to do it right after visitor comments or
Sure.
before that? Sure, great. Thank you.
All right, so, motion to add Heather White with Bill Trevaskis and move the capital improvement plan to, let's just call it
4A.
4A. Yeah.
I'll second.
Sue seconds, all in favor. All right, visitor comments. Brian?
Yeah, would the board consider moving the visitor comment to the end of the meeting? I sent an email last Friday when the agenda was posted, asking for the school calendar, or in case you had something to look at in advance of the common questions. I just got it. I wanted to look at it during the meeting, I guess, maybe ask questions at the end.
Okay. I mean, I know that has been discussed, like, I've mentioned that in the past, you know, the placement of visitor comments in the meeting. I think in talking to other boards, it seems like they're all different. Some do at the beginning like we do, some do at the end. So it's really a decision for us. So I think instead of,
I'm not asking for every meeting here forward, just this one.
okay. Discussion?
I'm fine with it. I don't have a problem with it.
All right,
I'll make,
motion to move visitor comments to item 10, I guess?
sure.
Or not, yeah,
Or
9.
9E. I'll second.
Penny seconds, all in favor.
Thank you.
All right, any other visitor comments? Seeing none, I do not have a board chair report, so we'll move on to personnel, varsity baseball and softball coaches.
You want to go do Al?
Oh, sorry,
That's
Al, you're next.
That's right, we'll keep each other. So I asked Al to attend. You have the capital improvement plan, and it is the same document that you have been building on for quite a while. We just made some additional changes late this afternoon. And there are more things that will need to be updated on this as we continue to get numbers and things like that. But I asked Al to attend because there are some pieces that he most definitely can explain more clearly than I can and would be able to answer your questions. This, as well as the calendar, again, are both, they're just first read. It's a first chance for you to have a look at that, and just like with anything like policies, if we have changes between now and the next meeting, we'll put those into the draft. So I highlighted the changes that we made, but essentially, the whole beginning of the document and the purpose of it, I didn't make any foundational changes to that, other than I added the enrollment for 24-25 and 25-26. And then under funding, it said the current administration recommends, and I just changed that to say leadership through FY24, so it represented when you had formed this and leadership through that time. That's how you get to that point. And then the only other changes were pieces that Al helped update on the anticipated expenditures chart. And so I'm just going to talk through briefly what those things are, but then we can have Al expand particularly on the HVAC piece and probably the fields as well. So we just lined out that first piece under 23-24 schedule for summer, replacement tall fields, piping. You're going to see that later on moved further down because that didn't happen in 23-24, or it happened, but there's more ongoing. Partial, okay. So then if you turn the page through 2024 and also 2025-26, we just updated things that we completed in the fall of 2025, AC in the music room. That was done with local funds. We received a bid in December of 2025, sorry, and that is for air conditioning in the auditorium. We have a generous offer from PI to fund that work, as you know, which I'll ask for your vote on later this evening. But Al did talk to them and has confirmed, since we got that letter from PI, that they will honor their quote that we received, which is great, and that they would be able to start right away and do that this spring, because obviously we don't want that happening over the summer. We need it to be in place before the summer, which will also get those folks out of the way for major things that Al needs to have taking place up in that area over the summer. So it's great that that piece came together. He can talk more about who the vendor is if you have those kind of questions. We're anticipating updated bids on the boiler. Again, that's HVAC piece that Al can talk about. We did put complete for the kitchen and cafeteria flooring. Those were on two separate lines, but essentially all of that was completed with the Child Nutrition Fund. And then for future or bids, this is sort of, we have two pieces here, and this is just specifically about the softball, baseball field. We do have a bid now for an annual maintenance contract and what we need to do each year. The vendor has looked at the fields here and made note of that. This is the same vendor who brought us out the turf builder. He is going to come, now that the snow is gone, he's going to come back again. We have some things that need to be updated around the mound, and there needs to be a larger sort of update to that field to get that in better shape so that we can then continue with that annual maintenance that needs to happen. And again, when I turn this back over to Al, he can share more if you want more details about that. I have not, just so you know, that piece is not in the budget yet. When we meet next week, I have a list of placeholder pieces for items that aren't included yet, so that the board can weigh in on whether you think we should include those, whether they should come out of capital reserve, or be pushed back to a future fiscal year. But the summer 2026, then you'll see the Victaulic seals pump replacement and four-way valve rebuild with the anticipated cost. And again, we haven't made a decision. Is that going to come out of capital reserve? Is that going to come out of the budget? So that will be an ongoing discussion at the next budget meeting when we finish the cost centers, and then we'll get big picture. Those are some of the pieces I'll be asking you to take a look at, and I'll give you obviously some scenarios. We could do this, we could do this. So we'll be taking a look at that. And then, again, just continuing with painting classrooms. Flooring replacement is weighing heavily on Al's mind. We would have put that in for next fiscal year. We know that we cannot do that at this point. There would just be too many other projects going at the same time. The main entry walkways, we know we have some challenges out front with the concrete, and there've been ongoing issues with that as well. The drainage rocks along the building, and Al, I just realized what we didn't put in here unless we did it and I missed it, is the lighting project. Needs to go in for FY '26
Yeah, it
that
was,
we
I'm
did.
not sure what, yeah, it was in there, Rich, I don't know, maybe
I thought it was in there too, so maybe it just got cut off, the way the columns were. Okay, so we'll make that update too. So Al, I'll turn it over to you then to give maybe a bigger picture of the HVAC piece and possibly the fields as well, if people want to know a little more about that.
Yeah, so the HVAC, so the HVAC part, the reason why I pushed the flooring off, because I really wanted to get some flooring done this year. I mean, just walk around the building, you can see, well, a couple classrooms, it's horrible. But if I don't get past these heating issues that I've had for the past 3 months, then, we gotta get this done. But part of it is there's a big set of piping up there, the two-way loop. There's a pump that failed 3 years ago. There's another alternating pump that's been running steady the whole time, trying to keep up. I wanna get that replaced, all the hydraulic seals replaced, because once they open all this up, they get all done, and then there's a 4-way valve that keeps failing. So this will be a summer project. We'll come out, we'll tear everything down, replace it all, and that'll be one major headache. It gets to a point where we have a failure. We flooded the locker rooms before with the amount of water that comes down through the ceiling. I've avoided this year. We know where to put the bucket. But it's been challenging. So I want to get past that. Then next year, definitely, I want to get the flooring company out this year. Different flooring company than what we had.
Yeah.
We're not dealing with them anymore.
Yeah.
Different flooring company, hopefully the folks that have come out before and have done a lot of work for us. And have them give us a quote, so we have an idea of what we can look at, maybe certain sections done, kind of like what we've done in the painting the last few years. And there's some more spaces in the building that need to be painted. I'm not as concerned with those as I am the flooring. So next year, of course, again, we'll get some numbers, we'll put that together. That'll be a major project. And then a couple of years further, I'm hoping the roof that's over here in the gym, the biggest roof, is the only one we haven't had replaced yet. It will have to be replaced sooner or later. I know we've been putting money aside for it. The last quote, I think, was, I don't remember what the numbers are, Trina, are they on there?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought we had numbers on there.
Yes, no, sorry, I'm on the wrong page, Al.
The large roof,
Page
bid,
four.
400,000?
Is he talking about the roof, right?
Yeah, the large
400,000.
Yeah.
400,000.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that number is still gonna be close. We want to keep pushing it off, you know how that goes,
Yeah.
everything gets more expensive. But that's a major project. But again, if we finalize all the roofs, hopefully we'll have another 25, 30 years. I won't be here, so that's perfect. I won't be in this job, but maybe I'll be here. Anyway, that's a huge project too. That'll probably, I know we keep pushing it, and eventually, we'll keep patching it for right now, I guess, because of this huge, but we have to make sure that money's gonna be there. So, I don't know, anybody, and then the boilers are as old as the building.
Yeah.
All 4 of them. Fair company I have come out that does all the HVAC work for us. They've done a great job. They've rebuilt 2 of them, literally. They're gonna do the other 2. They only have so much life left in Even, I think in a couple of years, we're possibly replacing all four, or whatever the option, maybe they're downsized. A couple different options we'll have. So I'm gonna start talking to those folks. And Tommy still wants to be involved in that also, so we'll see, what kind of numbers we get. But that's something we should be looking at too. You know, I know for a fact that when one boiler's down, which I've had down for like a year and a half, the other three struggle keeping up in extreme cold temperatures, keep this building hot. The only way I'm able to do it is with air handlers. I'm able to, you know, you can push hot water through there, drop hot air on people. At least it feels better than, you know, walking in a 60-degree room where you have 75-degree air coming down on you. It doesn't feel too bad. So, anybody got any questions?
Penny?
I just have a couple questions on the boilers. It's scratched out for the amount and then has a question mark. Is that because, can't hear you that well, but did you say we gotta get new estimates?
Yes, I'm gonna get new estimates on that. It's something I put in way back.
Yeah.
Because we were having a lot of problems with failures. But we were able to kind of get them back up.
And-
Working order. All four of them are in working order right now. But yeah, you know, they're gonna have to be replaced sooner or later. Again, I know it's always a building, normally a boiler, like 25 years or so. We're getting really close. I know what it takes to take care of them.
So you're saying we won't be anticipating doing bids until 27, 28?
No, I want to try to get some numbers now. The folks that I work with, Augusta, Thayer Corporation, they're our HVAC folks.
Uh-huh.
They're gonna come out. They said, you know, all the work they've done in the tool so far, other two will be getting that done hopefully in the next few weeks.
Okay.
Has really helped out. So we're hoping to get another few years out of them, but I want to get an idea of what that cost is gonna be to replace them, just so I have that number in the back of my head, we can put it on the paper, and, you know, I mean, if we do have a failure, you know, we have to replace just one. I'd rather replace all of them at once. We're going to need a crane, trucking, you know, the whole thing, so it's just a nightmare with a lot of things. So I'd like to just get it all done, you know, and, you know, I hate doing the summer, but anytime you can do that project.
Yeah.
So I want to get some numbers from them and also from Tommy. Tommy's, you know, really wants to give some numbers for it also.
My other question was about painting. It just says painting classrooms, like, is there a budget for that? And who's, like, are you hiring, like, local?
So we've got most of the painting done.
Okay.
A couple years ago. We started with the hallways. We got every single hallway completed, except for I don't think we did down here. It's something I did 5 or 6 years ago. And then it was back when Monty was here. We were able to do a lot of the classrooms and office spaces.
Yeah, it was New Beginnings Paint Company, I believe.
What's that?
New Beginnings Paint Company, I believe.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yep.
There is some more that needs to be done, but right now, I'm not too concerned. I mean, I think, again, it's something else we can push off for a little while longer. And I'll take a look at that and see what we need. I'll get a hold of Oscar, that's the owner of the New Beginnings, get some pricing on that. But again, my focus, get past the HVAC, get past that this year, and then look at flooring next year, definitely. We just have way too many sections that are coming up. We had to throw away all the flooring originally that was here. There were rolls and rolls of it in the music room. You couldn't even do anything with it anymore. It just cracked. That's Bill. He's lived with it for his whole term here. It was some ugly stuff. So we have nothing to replace anything with anymore. You know, kind of want to have an idea of what we want to go with. You know, start, maybe you folks want to be part of that too. What do we want? Do we want the same type of flooring? Do we want to go with something that's like what we did in the cafeteria? It's cheaper. Not everybody likes it. so it's be a conversation that we'll have going through this year too. But I'll first, guess I'll get the folks out and we'll have them just give us an idea of what, what we can do. And maybe get, get some pricing and, hit the worst areas next year. And then, again, just like the painting, maybe every year add a few spaces here and there.
The reason I bring up painting is, I know there's a lot of big things going on, but for me, I would like to see some of the, like, stuff that people see when they walk in, and like rails on stairways and those just more for cosmetic stuff. I don't know. I brought it up a few times, but I know it's not a priority, but that's just something that I always think about when I'm,
The rails themselves on the stairs.
yes, railings, yeah.
I can take care of that myself.
I mean, it's not a priority. I just wanted to bring it up.
I asked about that before. I just need to have the time in the summer.
Is it-
I'm gonna take care of that myself. It's not really worth having, sand it down, give it a nice fresh coat of paint. Because there's also a section outside the door here that you noticed with the field paint on the metal. It's all the same type of paint, so I want to try to do all that. Maybe I might try to get to that this summer.
Is that not something that we could budget for and like have someone do to alleviate?
Well, I started it last summer, but
Yeah. I mean, I know.
There's not a lot of railing there. I mean, it shouldn't take me a terrible amount of time. I just want to combine it, like I said, with that section on the outside too, just get it all done while I have the paint
Okay.
there. I'll do my best to try to get it this year. The whole lobby was painted by the beginnings.
Yeah.
I had a question. I remember a couple meetings ago when some of the boiler issues were happening, you were talking about it. The building is radiant heat, correct? The entire, so, but then I just heard you mention something about getting hot air, something about, like, cause I just know the discussion that we had was if this building were to have gone below, pipes burst or whatever, to heat this building back up, like the days of school that would have to be missed because we're in radiant heat, and the time taking to reheat a huge building like this is a lot more than if we were forced hot air or something like that. So my question, I guess, is, I mean, we've got radiant heat, that's what we've got, but like, is there a way to supplement if a condition like that were to happen, where we could have some hot air blown in to help heat the building faster?
So the problem we had was, the major failure. I think the warmest space I had in the building was 38 degrees.
Yeah.
It took 3 days to get the heat back again. Thanks to Nate Stanball, we were able to maintain and eventually get there. What I do is I supplement, so there's 4 air handling, you have to have air handling units, but what they do is they air exchange. And it's all based on CO2, things like that. There's a lot of people in one space, so just like us right now, a lot of CO2, so you have to replace it with fresh air.
Yep.
There's a whole bunch of standards and things like that. So each space, we have an air handler here, we have an air handler for the gym, we have one for the cafeteria, and then the other one, the biggest one, is for the classrooms. And what they all have is a big, well, that's just word, a big radiator. You pump hot or water through it, and it pushes air through. So you're pushing that hot, it warms up the air that you pull the air from outside. So you're pulling, 20-degree air inside. You're trying to drop that on people. Well, it's not happening. So that's what I talk about. When I say I supplement, that's how I do it. Could you do that full-time or on a permanent basis? I don't think so. I don't believe you could. The units aren't really big enough. They weren't meant for that. It's just strictly a supplement. I overrode everything I could. And again, it still took 3 days, even with those air handlers running. I had them going 24 hours a day. Had everything else going, and it's still 3 days to get this building up to normal temperature. So
Okay.
and that was with the radiant heat, really
Yeah.
doing it. So, no,
So do you think, it's took less time than without those to heat the building back up. I mean, if we hadn't had the air handler, yeah, it
And,
would have taken.
and people would feel so more comfortable just because, again, you're dropping that hot air on them.
Yeah,
I mean, luckily, there wasn't any school going on at the time. You
Yeah.
wouldn't have had school, you would have canceled school for at least 2 days, possibly 3.
so it's just mostly on, you would use that in an emergent situation, the air handler,
Yeah,
like,
and
yeah,
I do that all winter anyways.
yeah,
You know, I have a computer, you know, of course, that new computer control system,
yeah,
and that's all part of it. There's layer after layer after layer on the control system. They each have their own page, the heating system has its own page, pumps have their own pages, you know, so it's, I can override pretty much anything and everything, and that's what I did to get that going. We do, you know, I think I keep their anglers set around 70 degrees. Most of them do a pretty good job of maintaining that, with the help, obviously, you know, the radiant. But, you know, you get some cold nights, and the radiant can't keep up. It's certain spaces.
yeah.
You know, especially when they're in some spaces. Talk to John, if you can have a little heater in his room space, Brian, you know, like that, you know, and that's a really cold space, like that.
I will say the legislature, if it goes through as approved, there's going to be some movement on adding the amount that is available to schools for revolving renovation funds. And so getting some of these quotes, particularly for redo of those HVAC pieces, I think is important because it's a balance of how much do you repair and rebuild, or do you get to a point where, especially if there was funding that we'd be eligible for under that new, you know, that new line of funding that would be just specifically for HVAC systems. If we were eligible, we would certainly try to apply and get what we could, even if it meant we could get a lower rate or, you know, however we're gonna do that. So the sooner we have a quote for that, even if we had to update it, when those applications open, generally you have a pretty short window, and districts that have those quotes ready as part of their plan can go through much more quickly to get on the list. So we'll just have to see what happens with that, and I'll keep you posted, but.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Al.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much,
it.
Al.
Thanks, Al.
Appreciate it very much. Good to have somebody looking at the fields too, though. I mean, that piece is, you know, has been a request.
All right, we have personnel, varsity baseball and softball coaches.
Happy to give you guys an update. Softball coaches are the same as last year. Head coach is Robbie Booker, and the assistant coaches are Ruth Brooker and Ashley Hamilton. For baseball, Dave McKechnie resigned, as well as Caleb Mason from their positions. So we went through the hiring process and interviewed yesterday, and decided on Tom Anthony as the head coach and Michael Farner as his assistant. The baseball softball schedule is almost done. It will be published by the end of this week. There will be 15 softball games and 14 baseball games. And it's looking like substantial numbers for both teams, especially baseball, which is really nice because last year we had the issue of not having enough players. Practices will start on March 30th, and the first regulation games are on April 16th. And then the last regulation games are on June 2nd, and then playoffs will be after that. I have a slight update on rowing. Dave McKechnie resigned from baseball because he wants to pursue that. Last I checked, he had 4 rowers.
So we're looking to see what we could do for a meet or anything with North Haven.
Yeah.
I think there's only one out-of-state meet during that whole season that would be
Yeah,
available anyway, so
Yeah.
it's certainly a.
I think it's less as involved than it would be during the fall.
We did not budget for rowing in this year's budget because if you recall, that started last year after we'd
Right.
already
Oh,
finished
that's right.
the current year budget. And so it's a fairly minimal amount, but where it is for students and students who don't necessarily do other athletic sports, and, we had a great season with it last year. We had, more kids than that, and just in talking with the principal and the AD, we thought it was important if we could to sustain that.
Totally.
Again, it's not a huge cost, but there's some underlying traditions there that are important. I know it was received really well by the community.
Yeah.
I think we had, 8 or 10 kids. I know we had more last spring, of course, because we didn't have enough kids for the baseball, and so there was some pieces around that as well. But still, even if it's one boat with 4 kids instead of running 2 boats, it seemed like something that we should continue while those students are here too.
Is-
with interest in space.
Is 4 enough kids?
I don't know much about rowing, but apparently, yes, it is.
Yes,
For certain.
for
Huh.
certain things.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Deja. Principal's report?
I'll just highlight it, because it was kind of a lengthy report, and then I'll add in something, things that weren't in it at the time. I'll just start off by saying today we had our visit from the Island Readers and Writers author today, Evan Griffith, and he did an amazing job with our K-5 students. They were very engaged. He was a pretty good storyteller and quite entertaining, I thought. I had the opportunity to hear him talk about the book, Secrets of the Sea. I know that at the end of the session, he was gonna do something with the older kids, the 4th and 5th graders on Manatee Summer, but I didn't get to hear that. Let's see. I think most of you probably went to the Little Mermaid, and that was absolutely fabulous. The kids were so awesome, and some of them were so talented. I was very impressed with that. Very grateful for Pi sponsoring that and putting in the time. Velma did an amazing job with those kids. And, special thanks to the shop class for helping out with the props, and Bill with all his tech, and there were a lot of different hands that were not seen that deserve a lot of credit for the success of that. Also, recently, last week, we had Senior Pechacucha, and we also had a grade 9 and 10 reading in the library. Both of those events were really good. I enjoyed listening and seeing our talented students talk about their projects and share their pieces of writing that they put so much hard work into. It was nice seeing them get the opportunity to speak in public. I think it's an important skill for all kids to have. Something that wasn't in my original report, but that occurred this past weekend also, one of our art students, Paxton Peavy, went to Portland and was recognized by the Maine Arts Commission through Mecca for a piece of his artwork that was on display at Mecca, and it's going to be moved to the Cross Building in the State House Complex. And I'm not sure how long it's going to be displayed there. Very impressive.
That is so cool.
To have one of our kids be displayed there. Very proud of them. Also this week, Lydia Wentworth was named the NPA Principals Award for Vinyl Haven School. And that's for citizenship, academics, and work in the community. She's going to be recognized at a banquet on April 11th at Jeff's Catering and Brewer with all the other statewide recipients. She'll have an opportunity to win a $1,000 scholarship that's drawn completely at random, but you have to be in attendance to have that opportunity. So all in all, we've got some pretty amazing kids. They're doing some amazing things, and I'm so grateful that we have a staff that is willing to work and put in the extra mile with all of our kids.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
I'm not gonna go over all these things, some of these are, were updated again, just to items we'd already discussed, but, Al and I did meet with the bus assistance vendor, is the way I've sort of deemed this. So we did have a conference call with them at length on Friday to talk more about what they might be able to provide, or what they're essentially doing right now is compiling information from affected districts with electric buses through their contract with the Department of Ed, which runs through the beginning of the summer. So we have documentation we need to put together. They'll take that, put that on file, and they'll determine what entities might be able to assist us. Just as a reminder, their role is not to provide any technical or legal assistance. And I know you read that. It was sort of a long update. There's sort of pages around this. I tried to just summarize for you essentially what it meant. But so just highlighting again that based on the recent guidelines from the U.S. EPA, we shouldn't expect any federal action or resources until Lion Electric's bankruptcy proceedings are complete, and I have no idea how long that might take. So, but Al and I did talk to them about what some of the things are that would be helpful, and a priority would be for them to send somebody out and diagnose what is wrong with the bus this week, because every time we go to start the bus, something else is wrong. It's continual. The bus was never working from the time we received it. It was, from Monty's records, it was months before the bus was operational. Some of that was because there was an issue with the charging, but then there were other pieces that were required to be installed that hadn't come, and until those pieces, the stop arm, things like that, as you know. So I've gone through the big bus book that you have, which, Tina and Monty and others had compiled. All that data and documentation is there, so we just have to sort of take it so that it's not this, 5,000-page thing that has to be scanned every single little, and we have to summarize that a little bit. But I committed to that we would have that to them by the end of next week, and then they'll look at that and get back to us. And they have a range of things that could happen. For example, they have one of the college technical centers that has a program that's working on things such as, electric, solar, all these different sort of pieces. I said, yes. I said, if you wanted to take the bus off the island and take it to some place that, like if there's a diesel program at one of the colleges, at one of the tech programs, if they wanted to have that and work on that as a diagnostic or any, that's usually a live work project, and oftentimes there's no cost to that. Whatever, if we can't get a tech out here, can we get the bus to someone? Which again would require that what is currently broken, which is an issue with the emergency brake, is stuck on. And so I know, like, when the firefighters needed to use it and go get the folks from North Haven, the emergency brake was stuck on. They couldn't get it off, so they couldn't use it. It's just, there's a constant, there's something every single week. The list is long. So we haven't given up. We won't give up. It's going to take time, unfortunately. And he did ask me, and without having had a chance for you folks to weigh in, he said, if you had a chance to get rid of it and get a diesel bus again, would you? And I said, right now, all day long, yes. Because we would have something right now. And some of the pieces we're seeing for reports around the cost right now because of what's happening with electricity. We could probably, there's obviously, environmentally, we want to do everything we can that's, in the best interest of the environment, but if it makes a difference between having a bus and not having a bus to be able to transport students, if we could get back in through the state's bid and get a diesel bus, then that would be nice. Obviously, we can't do that right now. We have two more payments this coming fiscal year, and one more, I believe, after that, or one more. Two. So
That was gonna be my question, is like, for the bus, I know we're working on budget. How much do we still owe? I mean, you don't have to give me
a
that.
little over 100, Tina, I'd say 110, is it 57,000 a year each payment? So we owe two more payments.
100 and how much? 10?
Off the top of my head.
Just an estimate.
Off the top of my head, I'm gonna say 114,000.
A year? Or
No,
that's a total?
50, yeah, that's total.
Oh, okay. And then, so I'm personally not optimistic that this is ever gonna be resolved, but, so at what point could we start talking about putting money away for a bus in the budget process?
Sure, so I would say it would be difficult in the coming fiscal year because, I'm trying to think of it, did I do transportation last week or not do that cost center?
Yeah.
We cut, I don't know, I don't have that document with me. I'm gonna say we cut 60,000 at least out of transportation. We cut the driver, we cut everything,
Yeah.
right out of there because we have a bus that's not running. I agree with you. I'm not hopeful that's part of why I'd like to see the bus go. Just as soon as you fix it, something else breaks. It's a lemon. It needs to go. The issues with the door closing, I know they believe those were resolved, but just some of the pieces around safety, at the moment, I would not put students on that bus. I just would not. I know other districts have had similar issues. So as soon as we get over that hurdle, though, Penny, we would go back through the state purchasing program again, which would give you the opportunity to get a diesel bus at their, at their locked-in negotiated rates.
Right.
Which would, I'm guessing by the time, if we went in a year, well, you apply in November typically, and then you have a bus for the following fiscal year. So actually, what might happen is we might put in for a bus in the November application process, and then once they go out to bid and they get those back, you have an opportunity, or it's usually early in the spring, to say you're taking a bus or you're not. And so if you're not taking a bus, you're not obligated, you're just going, you cancel your order, because by then we would have an idea, can we put those payments in our budget or not? And who knows, by then, maybe there'll be some other financial relief that will have come about in that time frame. So I'll keep monitoring all of that, because originally this bus that you have, you were actually approved for state funding, as you would be. And so, and if you purchase a bus through their program, you have to keep it for 10 years or 100,000 miles, either or. So, so it's pretty important, to be on top of that and at least be in that application process. You can always cancel it, but if you haven't put in for it by that November deadline, you're just not eligible. So I think that's something that we should do.
So it's no way to take some of that money and put in a reserve account for the bus for future purchase? I mean, we
I
can
think
talk
in the
about it
current-
at the next meeting.
We can talk about that as part of the budget, but I think it would be difficult
Okay.
right now, yes.
What about leasing a bus?
That's essentially what you're doing. It's a lease to purchase,
Okay,
yes.
gotcha.
So, and you have some options about how many years you do that over. I mean, most places typically do that over 5 years, but again, for, if you're going through the purchasing process, your cost is generally much lower. I think the last time I bought a bus, it was like 110, 112,000. So I think they were around 120 this year, the last fiscal year. I can check and see what it was. So spread over 5 years, or you could do it longer, which typically isn't done. It's usually about 5 years. And so if this does get turned around, what I would recommend going forward then is that if you get a bus and you're doing that for 5 years of payments, and then you have to keep that bus for 10 years or 100,000 years, on the back end of that, the following 5 years, keep that same amount that you would have budgeted for your payments in there, budget that amount, put that into a reserve, so that then you're not behind the 8 ball going forward, and then you just stay in that process. I mean, 10 years, I mean, that's definitely still a lot, but we're gonna hit 10 years, I think, before we're ever gonna hit 100,000 miles.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm not sure, I guess one thing I would wanna reevaluate at that time is a full bus the right thing? In light of the challenges we have getting a driver. If we get a bus and we don't have a driver, that's also not helpful. So there are other things that we might need to consider, not necessarily even vans. Do we need a minibus? Do we need, I call them airport buses, like the shuttle buses, that don't need, obviously there's still training and safety and vetting and pieces like that, but you don't need the full-on cost to, if I say it wrong, but, that full licensure. There are some other options for drivers, similar to what we do, but in a vehicle that could carry more and have more capacity.
Okay, because I asked about that when we were toying with the electric bus thing, or started having problems with the electric bus. I don't remember, but I mentioned like the 15-passenger, like this was when Monty was here. I
Yes.
remember Monty saying though that these people still need the endorsements
Yes.
on their license, the same as a bus driver, even though it's not a bus. So
Yeah.
that was like the prohibitive thing to be like, oh, well, I guess it doesn't make a difference
Yeah.
because they still need this class time. So it's not, wouldn't behoove us, I guess, to get the vans because you still run
Yes.
into the issue of a driver.
Yeah. And it may not, so we can't even do the 15-passenger conversion vans that were done for years and years. Schools did those. We can't use those. We can't even get insured for them. But during COVID, what districts bought were, they're bigger than that. I'm not gonna think of the name. I wanna say, like, they're like an Econoline van, you go in, they have the storage overhead, but to my knowledge, you don't need a class 2 to drive those. I could be wrong, I'll check on that. And that may not work anyways. You may have too many kids. If you had 2 of those, could you do runs out, and would that work, or would you not be able to get enough kids and you just need to have a bus? But I do think, we've done the ads. I've talked directly to people that have done that before or would be able to do that, and it's something to strongly consider. If we don't have a driver and we don't think we're going to be able to get a driver, I would, whether our bus right now, obviously working or not working, not the point. If, we also don't have a driver. So it's a double-edged sword, but.
All right, any other questions? All right, move on to 9B, consideration of donation from PI for auditorium air conditioning.
So I guess it is in the packet. So you have the letter from PI again. I met with Rob Warren, appreciated hearing from him, and of course the PI board met, and this is a lovely and generous donation. We talked earlier about the capital improvement plan, how you get a quote, and if you don't do those things then, like the roof, the 400,000, that quote's 2 years old now. This is a good example. I think the original quote was like 88,000. So you can see, I don't know when that was from. I wasn't here, but in just a handful of years, obviously with the way things are, you know how quickly those things escalate. So the fact that we have a vendor that can do it and that can come and have it taken care of and installed before the summer would be great. It benefits our summer program, which PI does an amazing job running, but not just that, there's so many community events here all summer, and even at graduation in June, it was really, really warm. And in the fall, the same thing happens. So it's a really lovely benefit to the school and the town. So I hope that the board will consider accepting this donation, and if so, then someone would just need to make a motion to accept the offer in the amount that's listed on here.
I'll motion to accept the PI's offer of $135,759 for installation of an air conditioning in Smith Hokinson Memorial Hall.
I'll second.
Sue seconds. All in favor?
So
Thank you to PI.
thank you very
Kind
much.
of a
Yeah,
no-brainer.
Huge thank you to PI. Wonderful partnership you have.
All right, moving on to the 26-27 calendar first read.
Okay, so we've been through a few drafts. I would like to thank John and Bill. John, I know, has chatted about this with Alteen, Bill, and someone else I'm forgetting, another teacher who also.
All kinds of Brooke as well.
And Brooke, thank you, yes. Gathered some input. It's one of those years where Labor Day's really late, unfortunately. And so the original draft, I looked back at the calendar 2 years prior when you had the 2-week March break to look at that and modeled after that. They had some great suggestions that you see in this draft. So This draft, though, has them coming in for we have a full-day teacher workshop and then a full-day all-staff workshop. And that would move those to the last day of August and the first day of September. And then students would come in the second and third, that Wednesday and Thursday. We would not come to school, though, on the Friday of Labor Day weekend. That's a big weekend when people are away traditionally and traveling off island, no problem. And then the following week becomes a 4-day week, and then because of the holiday, and then the next week is a 5-day week. I like that, and I think the staff likes that as well, because especially for our youngest learners, well, and let's be honest, for everyone, but primarily our youngest learners, a 2-day week, and then coming in for a 4-day week, and before you have a full week is a very nice transition. And in talking with some parents I've met with over the fall and winter, that transition would help our littlest students as well. So those pieces would be helpful. And then a lot of the other pieces are just more traditional, how you see a calendar. The workshop day in October, that's typically a date that's done statewide. We don't always necessarily have people that go to other statewide things, but you could. There's a conference for technical center educators that happens on the day. It'd be nice, to be able to send somebody then and not have to necessarily have a sub. And then in November, the 25th, that workshop day is actually a comp day for conferences now, because teachers do conferences both in the fall and the spring. So it's technically a workshop day, but they're not here. It's a comp day. December, their suggestion was to have school on the 21st and the 22nd. The 22nd, the day before vacation, is traditionally a half day. I definitely like the 2 full weeks better, and I'm sure a lot of people do, but what you'll see when we get to the end is it pushes us so late that it creates additional challenges for us. And then we have some other early release dates that are days when we continue to work with staff after students leave, half a day. The March break is the 2-week March break next year. And then where that puts us at the end, essentially, is the 17th would be the last day. It would be an early release, and that's if we have no snow days. They ask to have the snow days taken out. There are things we can do to make up snow days differently than just add them at the end of the year. We can add an hour to 1 day of the week for three weeks in a row, right, John? It has to be 3 hours. That can be challenging around athletics and after-school events. Or you can do, you can make it up on half-day Saturday, which, again, you run into attendance issues and things of that nature. It's not just our athletics, there are travel leagues, there are lots of other legitimate things going on. So we would just have to evaluate that as we went along. But from a district perspective, something you need to keep in mind is, with this calendar, we don't budget for Juneteenth. And Juneteenth, we can't just say, oh, we're gonna come on that Saturday instead of coming back in on the Monday half day. We can't have school that Saturday, and we can't have school that Friday. There's not anything I can do around that, okay? That also means for our hourly employees, we incur an additional paid day off that we would not have budgeted. That's about $3,000 to $3,500, okay? So if we have snow days, we don't make them up someplace else prior to then, and we, let's say we have 3 or 4 of them, which I can't imagine we would, but I don't know, this winter certainly, never say never. You end up into that next to last week of June, and it just, it becomes really challenging. But that's not insurmountable. Again, we would just have to keep that in mind. It's a unique year because of Labor Day being that late, and I understand. There's a lot of different ways you could do it, and I don't think any of the input that I heard from staff was challenging. There's reasons to do the calendar all kinds of different ways. We do have a mandate by the Department of Ed that we have there's a certain amount of dissimilar days in your superintendent's region that you're allowed to have or not have. And so I'll just say what we've traditionally done in the past, otherwise this wouldn't get approval. I have to send this in. And
Okay.
so it has to go to Mid-Coast, and then it all gets compiled and it gets sent to the Commissioner of Education. We transport our students, and we have our students go to Mid-Coast any day that they're operating. So if you're attending Mid-Coast, which is half of our high school kids next year, so they'll be going every day. I mean, we have enough kids that we have kids going every day. This year, we don't have that. We run on their calendar, so the dissimilar piece ends up not being an issue for us. That's really why that law is in place, because otherwise you have your technical center kids missing tons of school because districts, well, we're not in school that day and we're not running a bus, so that's not an issue here. We run on your schedule, so in other words, if Mid-Coast has school students and their first day is August 31st, our kids who would be due at Mid-Coast that day, that's the day they will go, they'll take the ferry, there'll be transportation, and that's just how we do it, so. And that's how we did it last year, and I didn't hear anything about it, so we're just going with it.
So you said no snow days built, or one snow day built into the?
There's none.
None. How, is this the first time we've never built snow days in?
You have not traditionally built snow days in, or I don't know when the last time you was, I'm told you did, and then you didn't. I built them in this year, for the first time, and just put a note on there, we'll drop any unused snow days. Of course, it ended up being snowier this winter than last winter, so we've used snow days. And that's typically what you do. That way people sort of, they plan on it. They don't plan sort of school vacations or sending kids to summer camp or things like that before those dates. And again, you still could go over those, but it just puts a placeholder in your mind. If I built in snow days to this, we'll automatically go over that Juneteenth holiday.
What's our last day this year, just if we don't have any more snow days?
17th.
I think we had 2 built in, and I think we've used the 2.
Well, I just have a couple of questions. I feel like a lot of the schools on the mainland now start in August. And also I wanted to know, when does Mid-Coast School of Technology start? Do they have their calendar approved yet?
They do. I'd have to I'll pull it up on my phone. Penny, and
Okay.
look, I just don't recall at the moment when they start. When it's a year like this, what most teacher contracts have in there is language that says something to the effect of, the school year for teachers will start no later, will not start before Labor Day unless students are also brought in, or something to that effect, so that when you get a year like this, you can start earlier. So the first draft that we had teachers coming in August 26th and 27th, and then students starting August 31st. But it's still, it only gains you 2 days, and really, because of the way the workshops fall, at the end of June, it only puts us out 1 day. It would have given us 1 built-in snow day, so we might get away with 1 snow day. Last year, we only had 1 snow day, and some years you don't have any. But, exactly. I mean,
Well,
we just-
especially with the boilers, like that, after that conversation, that just made me really nervous.
Yes, we really got lucky. And if we had some kind of emergency where we had multiple days we had to go because of no heat, I would put in a appeal, and I know you've done that out here before, too.
Right.
Districts do, and you can ask. They don't like that.
Right.
I'm not saying they won't approve it, but you've got to really have a pretty good reason. You have a tragedy, you cancel school, things like that, where you don't make it up. They really want you to do your statutory 175, and you can do 170 for seniors.
Is there a way, and I don't know if this might be, this is probably controversial, but could we just do February and April where Labor Day is so late?
So I've asked around a lot, and in the end, it's the same number of days, so it wouldn't really.
Well, because we have the
Well, it would give you
holidays,
2.
right,
It would give you 2 less days.
right.
I have asked around about that. It's the first place I've ever been that had that last year. I have to say, it was lovely having been able to travel when not the whole rest of the world is someplace. And from what I've heard from feedback, and you may know differently, most people have told me that there are a lot of people who like that 2-week March break because they leave, they vacate, and that longer amount of time. I know I've seen that for our staff too. They do things they can't traditionally do, like a 10-day cruise, because you have extra time to get off the island, to fly, to get, if you want to go to Europe or what have you. And I've asked quite a few people, I could be wrong, but it seems like that tradition and doing that every other year is pretty ingrained. I mean, again, it's the board's purview, but, I wouldn't not do this just because of snow days, like I said. Snow days, say what you will, it's challenging. You add those on to the end of the year, the weather's lovely, it's the end of June, kids want to be done. It's challenging. I think teachers do what they need to do around their curriculum during the year to make the pieces of essential learning happen on time. You know, I don't know that adding those days at the end, there's nothing magical or particularly helpful about that. It's not like you're gonna start a new math unit because you've got 2 extra, makeup days in June. It's just not, it just doesn't work that way.
I was just concerned about the impact on the budget, which is already.
I agree. I would say we would try to do everything we could to be done before that June 19th. And at that point, we'd have to have a conversation about, do we do a half-day Saturday, or do we add an additional hour, 3 Wednesdays in a row, or something of that nature.
Any other discussion about calendar?
So if you start at the last week of August, that doesn't give you any extra days to prevent going past June 17th?
We'd have to move it back into, you could put the teacher workshops, oops, we gotta move around more. You'd have to put the teacher workshops into the 26th and 27th.
I actually like that better. Oh.
Not the 28th?
We usually, I mean, you could do the teacher workshops the 24th and 25th and then bring students in.
It sounds like
I
the staff
wouldn't recommend
wasn't
we do
excited about that.
I think, particularly on high school kids, they have summer jobs, they have, whatever else is going on.
I was thinking, like, if you did the workshop on the 27th and 28th, and then start school on the 1st, that gives you 2 extra days. No?
Yes, I mean, it could help, but again, we had them in there in the first draft for the 26th.
I didn't have that, or I didn't see it, so.
And that, it was, we were asked to sort of move, to move those back.
The teachers
You know
asked,
what?
yeah.
Well, I guess, having been to Dot and Millie's and some other places, we have a good portion of staff that also have summer jobs. And so I mean, this is their first and primary job. They know that. They're great, but it definitely creates challenges for them.
Yeah.
Sue?
I also think that we have such a huge summer community. We're such a vacation spot. To start too early, we did it years ago when my kids were young, and it just wasn't fun because the island was still in summer mode, and our kids were back at school,
Yes.
and it just was really hard.
And if
But it
you
would be
treat for
even
summer
harder at the
funding-
end.
It's
Yeah.
only 3
Oh.
days.
Not before July 4th. June is foggy and awful, I think.
Well, I used to say, because I've been advocating for the last few years, every year to start earlier. So this is not a new thought for me. I don't think 3 days is gonna make or break people's end of summer plans. That's just my opinion. I know it's not a popular opinion, but that's how I feel about it.
I have just acquired the past 2 years. Calendars, magically.
We run into things like for staff, if they're taking kids to college for the first time,
Yes.
that last week, they need to then end up taking personal days. We end up having subs the very first week of school or things like that. There's sort of a whole range. I would say the weather is definitely it's more desirable to be off in August and to get in here as late as possible in August. Like you said, June seems to be just sort of, it's more hit or miss. It can be rainy, it might not still be that
Yeah.
warm. Summer jobs may not have cranked up yet, depending on what you're doing. But
Yeah.
you're not wrong, Penny. I mean,
No, I
Yeah.
mean, even UMO starts in August now.
They do.
Yeah.
They don't start after Labor Day anymore.
Exactly.
So they've even adjusted to that
Yes.
scheduling.
Yeah, which makes it hard for anybody taking kids to school.
But I think it's important to recognize that we do have quite a few teachers who are working second jobs.
Yes.
And to start school, they not only lose that money that they would make, but it also affects the businesses that they're working for.
What if we did start on the 1st, though? That would at least build in one.
Well, you have, so we'd have, then what
It's
you'd
2
have to do is
days.
you'd have to move one of the workshops to the following week. So we have a workshop day on the 31st, which is teachers only, and that's a training day. We have a trainer coming for things that are identified needs, already lined up as part of our ongoing plan. And then the second workshop day is for all staff, and that's more getting up and going, the scheduling, all of that. I mean, could you do one of those days the last week of August and then one
I
on September
see,
31st?
yeah.
Could it's not really ideal, to break it up that way. It'd be
No, yeah,
preferred
I
not
understand
to.
that. Okay. I wasn't thinking.
John?
Well, I do have a suggestion a little bit outside the DEFRA box, but it's something that we did in the district that I came from, and that is we ran remote days for storm days. And so we didn't miss a school, and we wouldn't have to not come to school, but we could do an online thing for our upper grades that have computers, and and then for the younger grades, if they didn't have computers, we would have to have a plan, and we'd also have to make the decision the day before, and we'd have to get lunches to them, but it is an option, and it is something that is manageable.
I know a lot of districts all around the country do that since COVID. I would not vote in favor of that personally, but I do know that a lot of schools do take advantage of remote learning to alleviate snow days, so.
What would the staff think about that?
It just gives me PTSD about remote learning. I can't imagine how the staff feels.
And then what do? You're paying, ed techs, one-on-one students.
Yeah.
Paid day or not paid day, it's just.
It's tricky, yeah, but it is an option, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think North Haven does it, but I think they do it after, they set a certain amount of days, snow days, and then, once they reach that threshold, then they switch over so that they don't have to,
Build days on the end.
yes. So, I mean, that's an option as well, I mean, in my mind, if we don't want to start earlier.
My personal opinion about the snow day thing and building days on the end, I honestly didn't mind, Brian will remember when we did the extra hour on Wednesdays for quite a few subsequent weeks. I can't remember how many weeks it was, 10 weeks?
10 weeks, yeah.
It really didn't seem that big of an impact on the students. Like, my kids never really even mentioned it. Like, they weren't every week like, oh, Wednesday we have an extra, I didn't see like a major pushback about that. I would be more in favor of doing something like that versus pushing our kids, if they're already starting earlier in September, to push them into that second to last week in June. And again, what's gonna be more impactful, an extra hour on Wednesday during the regular school year, or a kind of a fluff day on June 22nd? Like, to me, the kids are checked out at that point. I mean, at least my kids are. I think teachers might agree. But it's, also though, I don't wanna speak for staff, because you know how the kids are gonna be receptive to it much better than me as a school board member. But just from my observation, it seems like an extra hour on a Wednesday to make up 3 days, 3 hours, 3 weeks to make up a day. Seems like it could be more impactful, but that's just my observation.
I agree, and of course, we can cross that bridge when we come to it. If it happens, then we can deal with that then. But, there are options. And again, anything that keeps us out prior to June 19th would be desirable, so.
So, any other discussion before we move on to?
I guess I just want to reiterate that after that conversation about the heating, I'm concerned that we could wind up in another situation like that and not be as lucky, which would really put us in a bit of a bind here. So I am not opposed to starting earlier. I completely understand that staff and students might feel differently, but I don't think that building in a couple of snow days would be a bad idea.
I agree with Sarah. I definitely, I feel like the closer to graduation that we get out of school, is better at the end, because I feel like a lot of the kids have already checked out. They don't want to
Totally.
be here. I don't know how much learning is actually happening those last few days. So, but I do know there's like, end of year activities, and I respect all that too. But I mean, I'm just speaking from my experience. I don't know. I'm sure teachers, like Ally said, maybe have a different opinion, so.
So does somebody want a motion, and we'll have more discussion about it? How do we want to handle
If
this?
we have a
Because we need to
motion,
have
at
a
least for the
motion and then
first read.
discussion for the first read, so.
I'll make a motion to accept the 26-27 school calendar as presented.
Discussion? Other than what you just said?
No.
I've got that down to look at,
I-
maybe a plan for how the snow days could.
Yeah.
Okay,
And keep in mind, this is
So
just
if
the
we've-
first read
okay.
right now. This isn't voting it in. This
Okay.
is just.
Right.
I'm going to second Sue's motion. All in favor?
So it's 2 and 2.
It can just come back, it just comes back as another first read next month. And if you decide it's where you want it next month, you can do an emergency adoption, or someone can just make a motion to adopt it, so that it's not too late. I mean, I think the gist of it is, at least what I've heard from parents, from most of them, the thing they want to know about the calendar is it the February and April year, or is it the March year, in case they're tracking flights and presses and trying to book vacations, which
Yeah,
I don't know that
I think
anybody
that
with
we
everything
can
that's going
say
on
with
is doing that.
certainty that the March break is going to stay at that 15th to 26th date.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I think, we've got folks here who've heard your input, we can go back, look at it again, see, what are the options, and we can have a conversation about the snow day piece, so that maybe we have a plan in place ahead, and maybe it is, we do the 1 hour makeup on Wednesdays or whatever, and that could be right on the calendar if we know that ahead. And again, it's just a unique year. Going forward, you might not have to do that, so.
Right.
okay, moving on to Widows Island Fund, Bill and Heather.
I bet it's really pretty.
You would like one on the rest of it, like, I think I'm gonna cover travel, Bill's gonna cover lodging, and then we're just gonna kind of ramble through our itinerary, which, are pretty exciting.
Oh, this is the
Just to look at, yeah.
Do you need any chaperones?
And I can keep this?
Yeah.
Because Jack might not ever give me one.
Are these
not
all
that I
the
need
same?
one, not that I need one for this.
Are they
I'm
all
with
the
my
same?
wife.
Yeah.
Those are the same, I
Someday.
think, and I'll pass this on to
Oh,
you.
okay,
This is the
sorry.
This is the mission slip and itinerary.
Oh, okay.
And this is the itinerary.
Okay.
We've gone on as art and music too. We were kind of doing this before the legacy trip, and then the legacy trip showed up, which was so wonderful. Oh, it's our 5th trip. Oh, great. We've been to Boston, we've been to New York. It's pretty streamlined at this point. And it's just a great trip. We only do it every 2 or 3 years, so there's no need to you don't want to, you could really ruin it by going every single year. So we make it a special thing every 2 or 3 years. We really plan this trip, especially when we consider the students we have in art too, and music too, and who, their engagement and, how they'll benefit from it. So we have 11 students going this year. Okay, so travel, we're going to be traveling on it's so great. Kids get on the ferry, they get on the bus, they get on the train, and they ride subways, and they walk. Even if a kid lives on Long Island their whole life, they never get their license, or they're really scared about driving on the mainland, they don't have to. So a trip like this really shows them how available the world is to them, from this teeny little spot. They can even walk to the ferry from almost anywhere on Island. And all of that's been, so all that's booked already. So we booked all of that stuff. You can see on Thursday, that's a very heavy travel day. And then we end up in Times Square at a hotel at the Hampton Inn. Bill's going to talk about that. And then that's our first day is Thursday. Friday, we wake up and there's hotel breakfast. So that's a pretty good thing for students. So that kind of covers one of those costs. We spend time at MoMA. We picked MoMA this year because that's where Starry Night hangs. And it's just such an iconic painting. And you even see it in the SpongeBob cartoon. Anyway, it's just really neat for them to be able to stand in front of that Vincent Van Gogh painting. So we'll start there and we'll work through the museum. I'm going to guide the tour this time. I've heard from students sometimes docents are really intimidating to them, so we're going to keep it really intimate. We'll stand in front of 2 or 3 selected works. We'll talk about the work, and students will have time to themselves in the museum.
we'll have street vendor lunches. We're gonna go past the Staten Island Ferry on the, we're gonna go past the Statue of Liberty on the Staten Island Ferry, because it's free, it's still found out. So that's good. We've been to the Statue of Liberty before with students. So, just the way our days work out, it's better to just kind of do a drive-by. So they'll get to see that, which will be important. Request from students to visit the 9/11 Memorial on Friday, and that's all in the same area, so we'll be doing that. And the Customs Building, which might seem a little bit boring, but we're gonna walk by because there's a living granite right there, and there's a really cool thing that the Historical Society will see that's just like a model, and then we see it for real on the building. So I really, even though we just walked by, I think that connection is so strong.
Yeah.
So then we move on to Saturday.
Yeah, so the next day we're actually going to take the subway all the way up to Upper West Side, and that's where St. John of Divine is, where, hey, more vinyl even granted, the most amazing pillars ever. And we're gonna, just a side note, we're gonna go visit the Historical Society as a dual class. And
Prior to the trip.
Prior to the trip, we'll walk around the Historical Society. They'll give us a little overview about like how they got the granite there, how they cut it, how they turned it, how they installed it. It's pretty wild.
And it's a chance for the music and our two students to be together on a little like,
Yeah.
little, oh yeah, we're all gonna be together for like 4 days, and, because it's not one cohesive class, it's two
Yeah.
classes, so that's a nice.
So we'll take that group, which is our 12 kids. Lunch, street vendors again. We'll probably be in Central Park around there. And then we managed to get tickets to the Outsiders Broadway production, which is really exciting. Actually, we were looking at tickets as a class of what kinds of shows we wanted to go to, and as I was scrolling through, they stopped and were like, "We have to go see the Outsiders. We've all read that book." So yeah.
Emily's
And
gonna
so,
be like,
in 8th grade, yeah. So I looked into it. It's pretty pricey, but funny enough, actually at a dinner that Allie and I were at, a mutual friend of ours hooked us up with Mark Subius. Maybe some of you know, he's got connections to Broadway, and I called him, and he got us some great tickets at a really great price.
Oh, good.
And we were able to pay for those thanks to Jeff Tolman Music Award funding.
it all comes full circle.
We're like center mezzanine.
Amazing.
Music by Jamestown Revival. And Mark said we'll probably be able to do a meet and greet with the cast after the show. They were like, we don't, like the theater is so small. It's not small, I've been there, but they don't have backstage, so we're just gonna do it on the stage maybe. Like you sit here, they're right there.
And kind of embracing our Vinyl Haven-ness, Bill was like, we'll make sure they have questions ready to go so they don't freeze up and be
I
like,
want
oh,
them to write down
like,
one question.
so they feel really prepared to talk to, these people that they just saw.
Yeah, pretending to be greasers, yeah. And then we're gonna probably walk past a bunch of these iconic places, and maybe definitely go into Grand Central. I think we have to go in. It's just amazing. Public Library, Radio City Music Hall. We're gonna be basically in Midtown for most of the time, so we're just on foot a lot of it. Mark Subius invited us to his apartment. I told him it was 14 of us. And he was like, "Great, come on over. We'll have pizza." He wants to have us over for dinner. So
Last words. Wonderful.
yeah,
That
I was
is
like, "You're a bad man,
wonderful.
but hey, get a lot of pizza. Yeah, the hotel we're staying at is the Hampton Inn in Manhattan, right in Times Square. We're actually like 3 blocks away from the theater where we're going to,
Great.
which is pretty great. And yeah, it's just a good location. We're definitely going to do that at Times Square at night.
Oh, and yeah, Times Square at night, so fabulous. So after traveling all day Thursday, it'll be one of the first things we do.
Yeah.
Is get a little walk in.
Yeah.
10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. Let's get on the time.
Just go say hi to everyone. And then, yeah, we'll just make our way back on Sunday, back to school Monday. The reverse, now that you guys have the 4:30 ferry back, it works that we can take the bus and make it back on the same day, which is good. But the train is pretty early. It was last time.
There's only one option for the train.
Sundays, yeah. So we're just gonna
It's 5:44.
get up and go.
They'll be, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
They'll fall
There
asleep
are
okay.
like coffee and breakfast things at Penn Station.
Yeah.
And you can see the budget on the top area. Costs versus what kind of funding we had. Funding from Rose Island, arts and music activity funds, which is where we get, other grants and other income. We're putting money towards that.
The original works code sometimes that money builds up to like $4,000, and I'm like, ooh, do with that. Like, so I don't, like, usually when I take in that, it almost makes about $1,000 a year, but it's for stuff, I kind of reserve it for stuff like this,
Yeah.
and save it for something good.
And you'll see, it's not down here in the funding resources, but up where it says Broadway 2800, that was funded by Jeff Tolman. And you can see that we got a really generous grant for $5,500 from Jeff Tolman, which is great. And yeah, so we have a nice contingency just in case, but we're gonna try and keep it simple as far as like, well, like we got two places, you pick one, and we were out to take care of it, and we're using that, so. And on the reverse, you can just see everybody comes out our meal plans. It is tricky.
Like, you gotta make sure you have it. We're asking students to have access to $150 on this trip. $30 is so that they have a credit card available. We've talked to every single student, they're all fine with that. One student wants a little help getting a prepaid debit card, so we're gonna do it at lunch one day, So that's so that they can tap their credit card and have that feeling of confidence in the city. How do I get through a subway turnstile? Instead of like in a chaperone checking them all through, they should just confidently walk through that. So they need $30 for subways. We probably won't even use it all, but that's to be safe. $3 a ride. We're not gonna take 10 rides, but if we do. And then they can get free breakfast every day, that's what I'm doing. But in case they want fancy breakfast, I want a fancy bagel, I want $1 million latte. Great, we'll stop for you, but you have to pay for that. So they need access to about $30 a day if they think, I want a smoothie, I want a bubble tea. We really want to make sure they have that experience. But we're going to really, breakfast is at the hotel, we're going to but so they have access to little $150 for the time on this.
Yeah, and we've mentioned.
They'll probably be more, I'm just saying that's like.
Is it too late to join art or music too?
I think I need to go and chat.
Sounds kind of impressive. Sounds wonderful.
I'll thumb wrestle you for it.
Teacher swap idea we're gonna do, where we're gonna swap classes for the day. Basically, Heather's gonna have a music class and
Wonderful.
Sweet, I love it.
That sounds great.
Just a reminder, like, oh yeah.
fiddle and film.
Awesome.
Do you guys have any questions about the trip? I mean, we're mostly presenting to you what's going on.
Are you bringing any chaperones?
I called it.
$0 school budget, $0.
Yeah.
I think John and I are so appreciative when we have staff like this, the amount of time.
Yeah.
On their own time that they have taken to put into this level of planning to make sure it's a really fantastic trip for students is notable. And, when we have staff with such positive attitudes, just can do, the thoughtful things that they want to take students to see that will be meaningful to them as Vinyl Haven students just speaks volumes about our school. We're very fortunate, very appreciative.
Well, I know my daughter still talks about her New York City experience with you guys, so
Yeah.
it made a big impression.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was thinking about that trip because we did it around the same time, but also, we also have like 6 or it was a small group, but now we've got 12 kids, 11 kids plus us.
Well, for some of these kids, it'll be the only time they're even, well, no, we have Boston now, we have DC, we have New York City, and then that might be it for them. That might be the few
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And they'll remember it forever, talk about it forever.
Penny?
I think it's a great trip. My son went as well, and he loved it. I guess my only thing is, and I'm sure you guys already covered this, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about security and like, given this, our world circumstances, our country circumstances, like, more heightened stuff going on. Do you guys, have you talked to the students? And I don't know, I guess I just wanted to say,
Today I was talking to the students that are going, our 2 students, and I, right on this itinerary, I put the train numbers, and said, there's something might happen. And something might happen on a train, and your parents are gonna be able to say, nope, they're on the 175 train, and that's not the one, so we wanna, we're gonna share with parents, just every minutia detail we possibly can, it's just the way we work anyway.
yeah.
But then,
Everyone's gonna also have like a buddy or in one case, a trio,
Mhm.
where they are with that crew at all times. And we're gonna have a huge text group
every single phone number on the trip, or they printed on a little paper that everyone can stick in their wallet, so in the event that they have nothing, we could go to a little bodega and be like, can I call one of these numbers, you know, like,
Yeah.
really make sure that they are, have a lot of, and if they get lost, they know to go to the very last place that you saw your people, that's where we're all gonna be, you know, so. But it is a good point, that there's a lot of security that's.
Yeah, I just feel like things are a little more,
Yeah.
as opposed to last time, it's probably a little more heightened.
Yeah, last time was COVID, and that was a big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, when we do take the subway, for example, we're gonna be very,
Maybe break into two, like.
yeah, we're gonna be very diligent about
Counting.
having our crews, you know, and making sure everyone gets on. Also, in the event that the door's shut and somebody's on.
Oh, yeah.
Stay there, boom, we'll come back and get you. That's it.
Yeah, it's our fifth trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's why I support New York.
Yeah, thank you guys for all the
Yeah,
work you put
thanks.
into this trip and for
Looks amazing.
providing this experience.
Yeah.
All right, finally, the visitor comments. Brian?
I've got a few, I apologize. I really appreciate seeing the packet, that was super helpful, thank you. I really like the email on this one, you can see the public comment. I'm probably mindful of the questions I asked, so they're gonna get written in there, but I really like that. Can packets for these board meetings be available at an earlier time?
Typically, these packets are for board members only in preparation for the meetings, so visitor comments are supposed to be reflective of what's discussed at the meeting already, and the, you know, information like the calendar could be available at the meeting, but typically not beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I've got the calendar thoughts later, and I know you already, I don't know if you voted on it yet too. Thank you. Then, will there be agenda provided for the budget workshop in advance?
There is one posted, gonna be in the wind, that comes out Friday. So that agenda, the dates for those budget workshops and what we're gonna be working on.
What it says though, in this, like, it just says that they'll be working on them in no specific order. So, like, if I had specific questions about, like, the bus driver that was talked about today, like, transportation might or might not be talked about at the next meeting. Like, will there be, like, a Facebook update or, like, this is helpful, there's ways to get this at the meeting, which is very good. But do we know, like, for next Wednesday, which ones are going to be talked about?
So last year, what we did and what we've traditionally done is for the cost centers, we highlight the ones that we're gonna be reviewing at that meeting, and so all the other ones will be highlighted for the next meeting. It doesn't mean that we might not go back to other cost centers. I think that's why, I think the way Tina worded was in no particular order, because typically if there are questions that come up that had come up that we couldn't answer, we might go back and just do an update on some of the other cost centers, at that meeting as well, so.
So then in this wind, thank you for the back and forth question, I really appreciate it. So in this week's winter, we'll say which cost centers are gonna get talked about?
I think it just posted it as it has it, as it's listed on there, because we'll be going back over the other ones with some additional information as well, so.
Okay.
But it's all the rest of them that we didn't do at the last budget meeting, essentially. We split them over two. But we can clarify that. On the Facebook post, we can highlight, you know,
Yeah.
just as we did last year, we can highlight that.
Will those go out, like, so it's kind of like coming out in the wind on Friday, so that, the next budget meeting won't just be announced on the day of?
The cost centers we're working through won't be announced on the.
Just like this is, the whole agenda of the rest of the meetings, those are them, that's what we're gonna stick to.
The March 25th and April 1st.
Perfect, thank you very much.
And April 8th, if needed,
Yep.
is on there as well, yeah.
Yeah.
If needed, if we're done the first, then we're done. If not, and if we Of note, I didn't put, I mean, there's so much you could put on there. If we do end up needing the April 8th, we'll look at the timing of that so that you don't necessarily come to a budget workshop from 3 to 4 or 4:30, leave and come back for 5:15. We'll either move something later or we'll put on there that the regular board meeting will occur immediately following so we'll just, of note. I want you to drive home, come back 40 minutes later, please.
It's a
That'd be
long
silly.
commute.
So long, but still.
Awesome. What is the best way for, Heather and Bill's thing was significantly cooler than what I thought the Wheel of Island Fun conversation was. And Penny, I'll give you a shout out. If you're gonna pick a board member to go, since they all seem to want to, you should pick her. She had the safest question. Thanks for that.
Penny doesn't want to go.
Actually, I would. You can see in the last bit, I asked about the Wheel Island Fund stuff. Should I send an email or questions directly to, I guess I don't know who I should send it to about, like, the Wheel Island question?
It should come to me always, and then if I need to direct it to somebody, I will. Like if it needs to go to the principal, or if it needs to go directly to the teachers, and I can forward it to whoever it needs to go.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. Or just see me, since we have you here subbing all the time. Thank you very much. We're lucky. We've had enough subs.
Sorry to ask this after you guys already talked about the calendar. I think you can save a day if you recount the days from November. That's not a question, that's just a comment, sorry. And there are a couple things that don't specifically on the relevant side, that are documented on the other side.
Yeah.
Which is, that maybe we should go over there. And then I have other questions about it, but it sounds like based on what you guys have already said, and then how late it is, I'm happy, I mean, is it Katrina, should I see John about calendar comments? I don't feel like it's necessarily needs to happen here at the board meeting, but I did have questions about it specifically.
I'd be happy to talk to you about any questions. Sure.
Okay. What's the best way to get email responses from you?
I think we can discuss that after the meeting.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
yeah, just see her after the meeting.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make a motion, unless you have anything else.
It sounds like I should talk to you, but I won't keep you guys, I don't have anything else.
All right, motion to adjourn at 7:02.
Second.
Sue seconds, all in favor?
You pass that down to Katrina.
Bill,
And
you'll
pass that
shut
down
our
to Tina.
recording off.
Tina.
Tina.
When are you gonna be gone? Sue?
I leave, Tuesday.
I'm not, who seconded? I kind of. Me and Sue tied, so pick whoever.
You won't.